Cool. I have hit the streaming button, just waiting to go live, and we are live with excellent connection. So, hello everyone, and welcome to the Polygon Forest. I am Ubisoft concept artist Vin Hill, and I am joined, as ever, by Mr. Christopher Jarvis, who is also an indie dev. Hello, sir.
Hello.
So, we've got quite a bit of news to get through today, as well as some other sort of bits. But we're also going to be talking about a game that I'm quite fond of, and I've heard that you've recently finished. So we'll get around to that at some point.
Yeah.
But first, before we get around to that, have you played anything else other than the game in question? I guess because we're going to be digging into that a little bit.
I haven't. No, I've not been doing much because I'm in the process of buying a house. I bought a house. It's all contracts are signed. Got a completion date. So there'll only be a few more episodes with this background before it changes to a very slightly different background. So that's been taking up a lot of my free time.
Fair enough.
So that game that in question, why are we keeping it a secret? Is it a secret? Or do we
I don't think it is a secret, considering like it is on the thumbnail of the episode. So like if you've missed that somehow, like it's kind of
ICO.
amazing.
It's ICO. It's
Right.
ICO.
You've been playing
Cat's
ICO.
out of the bag. Yeah, I've been playing ICO, and that's all I've been playing.
Yeah, I've never heard of this game. Like it's a bit, I don't know. It just sounds really obscure. Like why would anyone I just don't. Who knows?
For our audio listeners, Vin has just been holding up several pieces of memorabilia.
I just never just ignore the pictures on the wall as well. I mean, I've just heard like weird things about this game, but we'll talk about that one in a bit. But yeah, like you mentioned that you're in the process of finally closing the deal on your house. Like, is contract all signed? Are you excited to actually be moving?
They are exchanged. It was touch and go as to whether or not I was going to get a mortgage right up until the last minute because it's a shared ownership, which in the UK people, well, even if you are in the UK, not many people are very familiar about how it works and the ins and outs. It's different to regular mortgage.
Right.
So long story short, it's stressful and I'm not enjoying it.
Buying a house is stressful and not enjoyable?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yep. That's a hot take right there. And I think I'll only enjoy it when I get in and start painting it. I think that's probably
right
when it'll start being enjoyable. But there's going to be an agonizing sort of 4-week wait until I get the keys. So
yeah, there is that, I guess.
I'm just going to be my same miserable self for the next 4 episodes.
I'm sure you'll find some video games to play at least. I mean, you got PlayStation Now. You've just finished Eco on that, so I'm guessing that there must be something else to play on that service that you're like interested in.
Well, that's the other thing. I was like, we've got the update on Ghost of Tsushima coming out in August.
Yeah.
Is it the 10th or the 11th of August?
Yeah, it's pretty close. It's a couple of weeks away.
Yeah, hopefully there won't be too much to upgrade to that, and so I could play that, and then if not, I'm just sticking to PlayStation Now because I can't really afford any AAA games at full price at the minute. So yeah, we were talking before, and I might splash out on Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah.
Because you said to play the remaster, not the HD version.
Yeah, I mean, there's a remaster which is on the PlayStation 3. So it was originally a PlayStation 2 game. It was on the PlayStation 3, and it's on PlayStation Now as well. And you're actually playing a PS3 game when you're playing it on PlayStation Now. And then, other than the remaster, there's the 2018 remake, which is just from the ground up, completely rebuilt from scratch. I think the game's only it was $40 US on release. I think it's like £30.
I think it's £30 now.
Yeah, and it's not like it's very very common to see that game on sale as well. So there might be that as well. I'd probably say hold off until you see a sale come along. Like if you're still a bit iffy on spending the money on it, because pretty much every single sale they'll have the Shadow of the Colossus will pop up. Same as the Last Guardian. So yeah, but it's hard to recommend the remaster when the remake is right there when it is better. I would
way
argue.
better.
Yeah. It's just a better experience, especially in 2021. You want to get the best that you can out of it. Like it'd be hard to not recommend that one. So
yeah, especially going in fresh. Like why don't you play the best version that's available now? Why would I want to go
absolutely
back? Yeah, play an older one. And then just doing some indie game stuff, but again, that's taking a back seat. So
cool. You making any progress on that at all, or are you just
still grinding through the levels? I've got about 35 puzzle element levels finished.
So how are you
So
actually
fine-ish.
like going about this? Are you just making one level after another, or are you making like sections of like certain puzzles that you're going to be reusing? Like how are you tackling it?
So the way I'm tackling it is I've got the story elements done in that I've got the script,
Okay.
and it's around the Kubler-Ross model of grief, and they have like 5 or 6 different stages, and then within those stages are sort of subsets. So I've got the script that I know that are matching to the stages, and I've got a brief outline of what mechanics I want to exist throughout the game, and so I've got sort of milestones of making 4 or 5 levels, for example, with the theme of anxiety or fear or
Okay. So
depression.
like the
Or,
different levels of grief and sort of going through
yeah,
them.
which are the different levels of grief. And I'm kind of just going, right, with this subcategory, which might be denial, I've got to come up with there's 5 scripts there's 5 different levels, there's 5 script elements that I've written, and I need to come up with 5 uh, puzzles, and they might be able to have elements of using a key to unlock something. They might have enemies doing a certain behavior, which would, and the puzzles might be laid out in a certain way, like frustration, for example. I'm trying to make levels that frustrate the player.
Yeah.
Different ways of tackling that. So the way I'm tackling the levels is kind of in segments, and so hopefully it builds up and builds up and builds up, and I've got enough legs for to get me all the way through to around 98, 99, 100-ish type levels. But the way I did it before was just, what's a good level? I know a maze, let's do a maze. Okay, let's do a slightly more bigger maze. Let's do a slightly bigger, more complicated maze. And then after like 3, that gets old real quick. So you got
to try and figure out how to mix it up a little bit.
Yeah, so I've got a process. I've got like a framework, and so hopefully, and so far so good. That's been going well, and I know where I need to get to in the next few sort of segments, and ideas pop into my head randomly about different ideas for levels, which is good.
Yeah.
So if I was just doing this 9 to 5 Monday to Friday as like a full-time job, I'd just be sat there going, oh my god, what do I do? What level do I do? But
it's nice it's nice to have that sort of downtime in your head, I guess. You know, like you're not just constantly working on it all the time, because you probably get some serious tunnel vision from it, I guess. I mean,
yeah, and it is a grind. Like designing 99-ish levels is a grind.
Yeah.
It's not. I thought this would be where the fun is, but it's not fun. It's
it's very systematic, I guess. Like you're gonna be, it's
and
rough
like
fun.
because I know the game design in the game. Like I'm trying to think of the most complicated, interesting, elaborate stuff, but that can't happen until right at the end. Like the groundwork, the first few, and I don't know if starting chronologically was a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm starting like from 1, going all the way through to the end. Well, that's kind of not true.
Yeah.
Like I did a kind of a vertical slice where I designed most of the mechanics that I know I wanted to have in the game to see if it worked, and that did work. So I've done key mechanic milestones, and then I'm going back and filling in.
I guess the thing which what I've found anyway that works, especially when it comes to level design and stuff, like from what I've heard other people say, is like they won't start at the beginning, but they'll start at like the third way through the game sort of thing. That's where they start, because you want like the first part of your game, when people first like start it, to be as tight and great as possible. And the only way you can really get it to that point is if you got a load of experience making all the other levels, and then when you go back and do like the first section of the game, then you're at like the height of your experience of making the game, if that makes sense. So you're not like putting all your worst stuff at the beginning. Yeah, it might be. That might be a way of doing it. But like no matter what I say anyway, like what you're going to end up doing is, even if you're doing it chronologically, you'll go all the way through, and then you'll go back to the end, and then you'll probably polish them all up anyway. So I don't think it really matters too much, but yeah.
That's another idea. That's another like approach, definitely. Like I thought, if I start off doing the first ones, knowing that they're going to be smaller,
right,
by the time I get to the end ones that need to be more complicated, hopefully I would have been honed in. So then if I come to redo the first ones, it won't take as much time, because I know that that there's going to be some element of iteration, and when I'm doing play testing and redesigning and stuff, that there'll need to be changes. And then hopefully if I just rechange the first few, then that should be the most quickest to do. That's the idea. But yeah, I did throw away a lot of design. I threw away like 25 designs.
Yeah, welcome to games development. Yeah,
I say throw away, like they're there. I can see them. I know what they're doing. I might pinch elements here and there in other future things. They might not go to waste, but at the moment they're just. I just see it as a process. Like it's not a waste. It's just a process because there's no way I could have just gone in and done what I've done now without the first 20 levels that I threw away.
Yeah, I mean, it completely makes sense. It doesn't sound weird at all. I mean, there's this whole thing with the with concept art as well, where I went for a phase of drawing stuff. Like when I was doing practice, like I would draw like rocks or like I would draw like a prop or something. But I'd have these sessions where I'd finish something from start to finish, render it all out, finish it completely, not save it as a JPEG, delete it, and just move on. And I know that sounds
to look at, to reflect on, and
right, exactly.
See
That's the thing.
You've come.
Because the thing, like the important thing, is the lessons that you learn from actually doing it, right?
True, yeah.
And it's the same thing with games design and like what you've just been talking about, like the whole like going through the process of actually learning how to do these things is like half of the journey. So for you just having it just to hoard it sort of thing, all you're doing is cementing bad ideas. Like you might have a bad idea in there, or like you could do it way better like later on from the lessons that you've already learned from doing the bad thing in the first place. So it's like I'm not completely opposed to it. Like whenever people say, oh, you know, I've done X, Y, and Z and I've wasted time and like I didn't make any progress on this thing. It's like you have. It's just internalized progress.
It's just not tangible. Yeah, it's not visual. Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. You know, I think there's a lot of value in that, and I think a lot more people need to sort of take a step back and realize that, especially. But yeah, don't look at that as wasted time, man, because it'll come back. You know, like it will help you out in a lot of ways that you haven't quite realized yet. If that makes sense. Yeah,
it feels like a wisdom moment. Like I feel okay with it. I feel at peace with it.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I've wasted it. But I know that if I was back in my uni days, I would be kicking myself. And
Right.
That would be the bad thoughts in the shower. Like, oh, why did I do those 20 bad levels? But yeah. And now I can see them and I look at them and they're just kind of like, it's almost like a good thing, like a reminder of how far I've come already with it.
Yeah.
After it's been a year of, oh my gosh, yeah, it's literally coming up to the anniversary of me deciding to make the game. Like I think it was around the 15th or so of August. So development's been for like a year nearly. That's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah.
Wow.
Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Yeah. Well, time flies even if you're not having fun. If there's a global pandemic, time flies.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true as well. That's a shame.
Time doesn't have any meaning anymore.
Oh,
so at the same time, it feels like it started yesterday.
Yeah.
But yeah. But enough about me and my game, which is now thinking about that I've been on it a year and knowing that I'm like a third of the way through just the puzzles. That feels like it's going to be like years away.
It's progress, you know?
It's all progress.
It's all progress.
But what have you been playing, Vin? What have you been up to? You've been drawing lots.
Yeah, I've been drawing a lot, but I did finish a game. And
Mass Effect 2?
No, still haven't even started Mass Effect 2, and it's on the list. It'll be next, maybe. We'll see. But yeah, no, I like I mentioned last week that I was playing Resident Evil 3, and yes. I got around to finishing this game. I'm going to be showing some gameplay on the video as well. Like now I've got all the commentary set up. Yeah, we're doing live gameplay on the side.
Are we?
Yeah. So
this is a shock. I didn't know this.
Yeah,
you sprung this on me, Vin.
Yeah. So yeah, people will be seeing it, like the game running in the background now. But it's okay. Fantastic game. Like honestly, I was actually really blown away. Like a lot of people were talking about this game like it was too short, like it wasn't like enough was happening and all this sort of stuff. And I thought like, is it going to be just more of the same as Resident Evil 2? But I really enjoyed this game. Like it was a good 10 hours long. Like I had fun with it. Like it looks absolutely amazing. They changed a lot from the original game as well, so it makes it feel like it's a modern game. And it was just a great game. Like I can't recommend it enough. Like especially if it's on sale. Like I got it for $19, I think it was, on sale.
Okay.
So I mean,
really polished game. I've heard good things. I have heard that a lot of people thought it was quite short, but For me, that's a good thing.
I mean, I disagree. Yeah, it really wasn't that short. It was, like I said, it was between 8 and 10 hours. Like if you play casually, like if you're just like trying to blast through it as quickly as humanly possible, and you're not trying to find everything, and you're not trying to unlock all the doors, then you could probably finish it in 6 hours and be angry about it. But like, I'm just not that sort of gamer, I guess. Yeah, I'm just not that sort of gamer either. Like I like to, like if I see a locked door and I haven't got the key for it, I'm like, oh crap, I'm gonna have to find the key for that. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be, I'm gonna be sad about it forever. But
yeah. In The Last of Us 2, when you've got those safes and like if you can't figure out how to do on the safes, like I'd hate that.
Yeah. Like I don't know how people do that. Like, oh, there's a locker there or a chest, and I'm not gonna open it. It's like, are you insane? Like,
there could be anything in there,
right?
Even a speedboat.
And that's the thing. Like in the game, like you actually find quite meaningful things in them boxes and stuff. Like you might find like an ammo upgrade, or you might find a new attachment for your gun that fires 3 bullets at once, sort of thing. And
was this Resident Evil 3?
Yeah. It's just, it's kind of nuts that people will just blast through this game as quickly as possible. Like it didn't make any sense to me. But yeah, I thought it was great. Like I thought it was a really good game. Like Resident Evil 2 and the Resident Evil 3 remakes have been really surprising to me. Like how good they actually are. Because I was sort of at this point with Japanese games thinking, like because they didn't really have a great era during the sort of middle of PlayStation 3 to the middle of PlayStation 4. It was very dry. There really wasn't any great sort of Japanese games. I know like people are probably going to disagree with that on some level, which I totally respect, but as a whole, I just thought they were lagging behind a little bit in terms of like the quality of games which the West was sort of producing at the time. But now like they're sort of catching their stride now, and things are really coming around, and I think Resident Evil 3 and the Resident Evil 2 remakes are really testament to that. They're great games. Like people should check them out if they can get a chance.
I remember there was some love for Resi 3. I remember that, but I think it's a valid comment in comparison to the other things.
Yeah.
Are you going to be going through Resident? Is this made you want to play more Resident Evil games?
Kind of, in a weird way. Yeah, I wasn't really expecting it because I wasn't really into Resident Evil anyway, and I mean I played them all pretty much. Like the only ones I haven't played is 7 and 8, like the most recent ones, like the more modern ones.
One,
yeah, which look great, by the way. There was no reason why I haven't, just purely because I've, I'm sort of out of the loop on Resident Evil, and
like back catalog stuff.
Yeah, and I played Resident Evil 1 to 5, I think it was originally, and they're okay, like the older ones, but like since playing the remake of 0, 1, 2, and 3 in a row, sort of thing, they've been really good, solid games. Like they've updated them, and they're not like cheesy and corny anymore. Like if you ever played like the original Resident Evil 1, god, that game is unplayable. Like it's really, really bad in terms of just like the quality of like the contemporary games. Like it's not, it's just not up to par. Like it's
a bit janky.
It's objectively not up to par. Like in terms, like it can be, it's a nostalgic trip, and like if you haven't played Resident Evil 1 in a while, like you've sort of got this thing in the back of your head telling you that it's great. There's nothing wrong with that.
At the time, it was groundbreaking, and I remember when it was just like this whole new, like it was one of those, like, games aren't going to be the same again now, sort of.
Yeah, but now just like the dialogue in the originals, and just how like you get around like the tank controls of the characters, and they're all talking like, "Hey, there's zombies over there" and stuff, and like it just, I mean, it's fine, but it's not really as enjoyable as something like the Resident Evil 3 remake, Like this game is just so good. Like it was really well done. Like the only complaint that I've got about the whole of Resident Evil 3 in particular is what I mentioned last week, was Jill is like half the speed she should be. She's just really, really slow, and it's kind of annoying at times. It's like to the point that it's a detriment to the player, like trying to play the game, because like you're trying to get out of the way, like you've hit the right button at the right time. It's just like because she's slower, it's just not quite. And Carlos is the same. Like you play as Jill and Carlos. Like you switch between these two characters, and on the screen right now, I think Carlos is on there. And same thing. Like they just feel like wardrobes, pretty much. Like you're trying to move a wardrobe. Like it's just really, everything's really heavy, and it adds like that grounded realism to it, and it feels like everything feels a lot more threatening because of that. Because you're slow and they're coming at you. You're just like, oh crap! Like it's really, like it adds a lot of tension to the game. But yeah, really fantastic game. I can't give it enough credit. But,
sounds good.
Yeah, everyone should check it out.
So now you've finished that. Do you do what I do, where as soon as you finish the game, and especially if it's a good game, where you're like, oh my god, that was so good, I need to keep this rush going. Like, now I've got the dread of, oh, what if the next game I play is not a good game, and like, what am I going to play? And I need to quickly install it now while
See,
I'm still.
this is why I don't want to play Mass Effect 2, because what if it's terrible? I'm joking, obviously. Like, you can see the pain in your face, just like.
No, it was. I was honestly thinking, like, do I know anyone of any comments that like thought Mass Effect 1 was just okay, and then went on to think that Mass Effect 2 was worse or not good?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard that.
I've not heard that.
Yeah, same.
So if you thought Mass Effect 1 was just okay,
yeah, I thought it was decent. Yeah.
Then you're going in.
Yeah,
on
a bad
but again, because it's everyone knows this. Are expectations going to be too high?
Yeah, I think there is an element of that. Because the first time round,
everyone's expectations was, oh, it's going to be another Mass Effect game, and then like, yeah.
I think you're right. I think there is an element to that, and rightfully so. Like, I think everyone is sort of yeah. I think everyone's overhyped Mass Effect 2 at this point, where it's kind of like, I'm kind of. And the same thing happened with the Witcher 3. Actually, there was a lot of people that were just constantly talking about that game like it was God's gift to the earth. And then I played it. I
definitely got that because I got the Game of the Year edition,
right?
Thinking this is going to be great game.
Yeah.
And it's a great game.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
But there's lots wrong with it for middle of the road. I'd say I'm like a middle of the road gamer, and there's problems with that game. Still.
Yeah, there's a lot of bugs. There's a lot of jank to that game. There's a lot of it's just. It's not as perfect as people sort of hyped it up in my head, and when I got around to playing it, it was kind of like, this isn't really the greatest thing in the world. Like the main quest, like the side quests in The Witcher 3 are fantastic. Like they are just cream of the crop, some of the best.
Gaming moments, like some of the best side missions ever. Like side mission game of this decade.
Hands down. Yeah, sure, I can accept that. But like the main quest and just like the bugs and.
I don't know. Like I can remember some of the side quests like vividly, but the main overall story, I don't really get it.
Yeah,
and it's not memorable. It doesn't stick in my brain. So yeah, and that's it's nothing that's not been said already. There's no new opinions there.
This is fair. This is very.
So what are you playing next?
I'm not sure. Like I'm kind of an open book at this point. Like there's a lot of good stuff that's come out, which we're going to talk about in a bit from Microsoft. Which I kind of want to get into Microsoft Flight Simulator. Like this weird thing has just come up inside of me where I'm like, I want to fly around a little bit. So like I'm sort of interested in playing that. But
this is the game that is going to be pulling in people that aren't gamers to buy a console. Like I've seen some tweets of like granddads getting consoles, and Ollie was playing with his dad. So Microsoft Flight Sim, Ollie Hoff, the illustrator.
That's very cool.
Which we went to uni with.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ollie if you're watching, but you're probably not.
He might be. You never know.
But yeah, I saw him, and then I saw some other people going, "Oh, my granddad bought a Xbox for this game because he saw it advertised," and like he was sat there with the controls with the directions printed out on a piece of paper, color ink.
I love that.
And that was on the arm of the chair, and he was playing it with the control, and I thought, that is great. Like, that's what games are all about,
Yeah, I mean, there's literally people out there that will buy a flight chair and all the flight sticks and all the equipment and just play just this game. Like, they'll never play anything else. It's just Microsoft Flight Simulator.
My great uncle did
which
that.
Is great.
Yeah, he bought a PC rig. Like, this is back in the day now, so I don't know what Flight Simulator he bought, but this is going back 15 years-ish. Yeah, he bought like a chair, proper office chair, proper PC, and the stick and everything, just so he could do his flight sim games and stuff. Yeah. And we went over one time, and me and my little brother, who's like a couple of years younger than me. Of course he is, my little brother. We went round, and he was showing us how to play it, and he'd been like studying the manuals, reading up about real planes, figuring out flight speeds and flaps and stuff. And of course, me and my little brother go in, and we've got our growing up with video game stuff, and we just go in, and we've never used a joystick before, except in arcades.
Yeah.
But we land like a Lancaster bomber like on the first try, and he was just like, "How did you do that?" Like.
Yep. Now the good thing about Flight Simulator is just like how how like accessible it is, I guess. Like, because there are people that will literally set up all the equipment and have all the buttons set up, so like they are actually flying a plane. Like, it's a simulator. Like, it's a 1-to-1. Like, all of the instruments are like reacting and stuff, and you can set up like iPads and stuff, so they've got all like the dials are moving and stuff like that. Like, this people are crazy setups, man. It's absolutely insane. But then on the other end of that, you can adjust that down to like however, like how much difficulty you want, where you're just playing with a joystick and you can just like fly around like it's a normal video game you're playing.
Yeah,
which is great. Like, I love that,
because it's everything in between, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's not like arcadey. There is a line where there isn't like
you still have to
like
go through some
fight
tutorials.
race.
Yeah, you still have to like figure it out, like how to actually take off and how to land. It's not like you're just you're not shooting down enemy planes or anything. It's just you flying around the world. But the thing that like sort of makes this game what it is just the whole fact that you can fly anywhere. Like, they use like GPS imagery, which from like Google Earth and stuff, and they reconstruct like the Earth around you, and then they also go in there and hand make all of the like the iconic places as well. Like, if you're flying around Tokyo, then all the buildings are handmade and all that sort of stuff, man. It just looks like a nice, relaxing game. So I think I'm interested in getting around to playing that one.
So you're in the mood for a bit of
relaxing,
bit of chilling out, bit of relaxing.
I think so.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
We'll see.
And we're watching some flight sim stuff now.
We were, yeah.
I see.
Yeah. Checking it out, making it all professional. Probably shouldn't comment on it because it sort of ruins it. But yeah.
Oh, sorry. It's the illusion.
No, I meant like impressed. Me anyway. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just impressed.
Impressed by your own podcast.
We're growing.
Nice.
We're growing as a podcast.
Indeed. Just not audience.
It's almost like you had it already. Knew you were going to be talking about it, Vin.
Almost.
Doesn't feel like this is a spontaneous conversation anymore. Ruining it for our spontaneous listeners.
It's all good. Anyway, we should probably move on to like other stuff that we got to talk about. So we've got we've got some news to get through, I guess. Obviously, yes. It's kind of like hard to avoid the current situation with Activision and Blizzard. There's obviously a lot of talk around that and stuff that's been happening.
Yeah.
Like, a lot's happened in the past week. Like, last week we got, I think, was the day that the court filing got issued, or the day after when we recorded. I think it was issued on the Friday. We spoke about on the Sunday. So
on the Sunday, yeah.
Yeah. So we had quite hot takes, as it were, and not hot takes, like, not that they were important takes or anything.
Fresh reactions.
Fresh reactions. There you go. That's a better way of doing it. And a lot's happened in the past week. So obviously, there's been a lot of responses from Blizzard and Activision, from their CEOs and the company writ large. There's been a lot of employees that have been displeased with that reply from the heads and the leadership of Blizzard. Obviously, not all of them. I think there's been about 2,000 signatures at Activision Blizzard, and there's almost 10,000 developers. So not all of them. We have to take that into account, because there's a lot of people out there that are saying all developers are in agreement. It's like, that's not the case all the time. So we've got to be fair. So there's still a good 2,000 developers though that are very unhappy, to the point that there was actually a walkout last week.
It was a walkout on Wednesday. It
was on Wednesday, and so a lot of developers stopped. Well, I say walkout, but they're probably still working from home anyway. But there was a strike basically, so everyone stopped working.
Basically a strike.
Yeah, and a lot of gamers just sort of joined in with this in solidarity to sort of support their views on it, and they stopped playing Blizzard games for a day. I'm not sure what the numbers were on that. I'm not sure like how much of an impact that actually made. Like if it just like Steam just took a dip like for all Blizzard games. Like, I'd be really interested to see that, just to see like how much of an impact now far and wide that sort of movement stretched out. But
yeah, that'd be interesting to see. I hadn't heard that the gamers were. I'd heard people discussing, I wonder what is this doing to, like the games, and some people have been writing it off, going, oh well, that's the end of Activision Blizzard, thinking that it would be the end of the studio.
It's a bit hyperbolic, I think. Like, I think that's
and everything in between. You can see everything. You just keep scrolling long enough, and you'll see all different opinions and viewpoints. But it'd be interesting to see the data on that. And is this the first time in the gaming world where there's been walkouts?
No, I think there was walkouts during the Riot Games sort of League of Legends thing, because they had a harassment thing a few years ago, but it was before. I think it was really before like the whole Me Too movement / harassment movement, I guess. I think Me Too movement was happening, but now it's sort of evolving into this like anti-harassment movement, which is it's kind of a weird thing that it feels kind of gross to me, because it feels like people are just going through phases, and I don't think that's genuine. I don't think that's fair. We need to like treat these like equally across the board. So I don't know, we'll see. But it's that the Riot Games had a sort of strike and a walkout, and that was mostly successful. I think like they were, they were.
It happened and
it worked, and it brought awareness to it. So it was good in that respect. It actually worked out. So.
And there's been lots of more stories being shared.
Yes, there has.
Which is, it's good that they're being shared. It's bad that they happened.
Yeah, I mean, this the thing. Like since last week, a lot of other news has been shared around this sort of issue.
Yeah.
And we're starting to hear about like lawsuits that have actually gone through and finished, and people have actually pled guilty to certain things that we weren't really aware of. Like they might have been out in the public scape. It's just they've had awareness brought to them.
They weren't in the public eye. They've been brought to the attention. Are you talking about the toilet cams?
I am talking about the toilet cams, which is a bit of a disgusting topic, and sort of forewarning on that respect, I guess. Like that, like if you're sort of triggered by this sort of stuff, then don't listen to it.
Skip
ahead. Sort of thing. We'll have timestamps, so you can skip this whole Blizzard-Activision sort of story if you want. But it needs to be mentioned, I guess. But in 2018, a former Activision IT worker installed cameras into the company's Minnesota office bathroom with the intent to spy on employees while they were using the toilet, according to court records reviewed by Waypoint and local media reports from the time. So I've got the article up here. This is on Vice.com. But I think it's by the way of another company. But yeah, basically there was an employee that installed cameras into the toilet with the intent to sort of film people. They sent investigators in, private investigators. They found the cameras. They interviewed him. They charged him. He pled guilty. This happened. So
because it went through the court system.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not a hearsay. It's not conjecture. It's it went through the court system, and which and it's shocking and.
It's bad.
Not much. Well, I don't know what to say about it. Really.
Yeah, it's gross. It's bad. Hopefully this isn't. I mean, because this is the problem. Like upon reflection of reading through the sort of the court filing, obviously from last week, there was a lot of talk around like, is this a systemic issue? And I think that's one of the major problems which the California state put in the court filing. After reading it and going through it and reading other sort of people like legal sort of opinions on the court filing, like a lot of people say there's a lot of good stuff in here, but the main problem which California have is that they're trying to stick this as a systemic problem within Activision Blizzard, which is kind of a hard thing like within the legal system to sort of prove, unless there's like some sort of company email saying, hey, we should get rid of all women and they're rubbish sort of thing. Like unless they find that smoking gun, they've got a hill to climb.
I think a lot of it is people. A lot of this is fueled by people on Twitter not understanding what systemic means in this context.
I agree.
Or maybe they do, and they do think that it's all people of power, including HR management, anyone that's in charge of anyone else, all either turning a blind eye after they've witnessed something, which means all of them would have had to have witnessed something. And then also going about processes to not have it come out or not have justice served or the right outcome. And so that's my definition of systemic in this context. And I don't think that's... I'll be very shocked if that evidence was found that it is systemic. I mean, so there's 100% of people with the opportunity. So you just need one... So for it not to be systemic, unfortunately, you just need one woman who... is doing the right thing all the time, and then it's not systemic.
It's extremely difficult to prove this sort of stuff. Anyway, like in terms of just to prove that something is systemic versus just like bad apple or bad agents within a company. Not to dismiss anything, like it's still just as terrible.
No, I don't want to dismiss the numbers of things that are happening.
I mean, the problem I have is like with a lot of these things anyway is that they don't hold people accountable; they hold company accountable, which isn't a good method to go for, because, like you said, like as soon as they disprove that it's not systemic anymore, then the case might be dropped, and then that is really bad. Let's damage it because there's serious allegations in here that need to be you know, that need to be addressed, and if they can just fall on a technicality like the fact that you're trying to prove systemically something, because the whole court filing anyway isn't really like the main target of the court filing isn't about harassment, like even though like games journalists like sort of covered it that way.
Like it was frat boy culture, like you go to court over frat boy
completely
culture.
It's actually completely incorrect for what the court case was about. Like if you read the court filing, it's very much focused on discrimination.
The specific discrimination, in terms of equal pay, dismissal
a lot
for
about
being a
a
woman,
lot about equal pay,
and not getting hired for being a woman, and those things. Which those are the things that have laws on, and those are the things that the court case is about. I mean, the other stuff is linked to it and tied to it and part of it, but that's the fact that that's where the media are spending the most of their time. I think is a disservice to.
I agree.
The laws that seem to have been broken with the evidence that's been
not only a disservice to the laws, but I think it's a disservice to the people that have been affected by this, like the actual victims of this. Like they're sort of going through this whole thing thinking, like, crap, like if this is like just put forward as systemic thing, and then this systemic thing is sort of proven to not be systemic through. If it is actually just like a group within the company that are just so egotistical and sexist and horrible, like human beings that just need to be turfed out, and they probably have been at this point anyway. But like if that is the case, then you need to treat those people as the scum that they are, and not just like blanket cover them under the company. Because what is going to happen now is that if Blizzard are found to be like a systemically bad thing, and then they get off with it for whatever reason because there is no like evidence of systemic sort of wrongdoing, if that happens and all these people just jump ship and go to new companies, like no one's ever going to know. Like they're just going to fall under the radar, and they're going to slip through the net, and like everyone's off scot-free, and everyone's going to hate Blizzard even though they're not technically they're not doing that problem anymore because the people that did it are gone. And it's just such a horrible sort of messy, muddy thing, and I get that, and it sucks, but my thing that I keep coming back to is like people need to stay focused. We need to focus on exactly on what the problem is with this thing and how to actually fix it properly. Because if we don't, then we're gonna get into the weeds on this, and people are gonna get away with it, which is like the worst outcome possible. Yeah,
we need to stay angry, and we need to keep asking for answers and action.
I agree.
It's just that it has to be targeted to the crimes and the
and that actually does bring into question. There was obviously another article by Kotaku which came around this week, which I wanted to sort of mention, which is like a part of this whole Cosby room thing, which there was a photo.
Cosby room,
there was. I mean, this was mentioned in the lawsuit as well, the whole Cosby room, and it was put in there because obviously from contemporary accounts of what we know about Bill Cosby, and obviously like the rape allegations and stuff, and what he was eventually convicted for, and like people like they're constantly using that within the lawsuit to sort of ginny up. Basically emotion about it, so they can get a fair chance at the trial, which is obviously like that's a viable tactic for the lawyers to do that. But now like other outlets have started grabbing this, and they've pictures have started to surface of developers in the fabled Cosby room, which is it was basically a hangout area like during E3 or like BlizzCon or whatever, like the whatever convention they were at, like they were all hang out in this room called what they nicknamed the Cosby room.
The Cosby room, which was a hotel room, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a hotel room.
Some of the things which I've read about, you could put that in the court case and have that as evidence for sure.
Right.
But I guess the important thing is the date that the picture was from. Wasn't that 2013?
This is the problem which I have, and this is like we were just talking about this, like staying focused, and this is a prime example of Kotaku like basically ginnying up emotion on something which is sort of, I wouldn't say unfair. Like I understand the criticism and stuff. Like there's definitely other bad things happening here in this story which are completely brushed over, which is insane to me as a developer. Like just like looking at this sort of stuff. But like the focus is the fact that like they were celebrating Bill Cosby, and they had this room and they called it the Bill Cosby Suite and stuff, like as if they'd known about
as if they were worshipping a
rapist or a sex offender, obviously. Like, and this is in 2013, before Bill Cosby was ever accused, convicted, anything like
publicly, and at least it wasn't public knowledge.
There was sprinkles of it, and the developers, like there's a couple of the people in the picture that have actually come out and said we had no idea at the time. Like, and the second that the allegations came out, we stopped doing this. Like it's an absolutely horrific thing to even try and compare to. And it's sort of like that sort of disingenuous thing is sort of, we're taking the eye off the ball by focusing on this stupid stuff, basically.
Yeah.
When the actual problem with this story and what isn't really focused on whatsoever is the fact that these developers were getting together to have backroom meetings. Like that is like, there's some legal jeopardy. Like that's actually kind of legally dubious, and they never mention it.
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's just unfortunate. It's an unfortunate coincidence that they called it the Cosby Room and that this is where these things happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't presented like that in the Kotaku article. It was. They never put the dates on when the picture. I think they put the date on when the picture was, but they didn't clear up the date line of when it was public knowledge about what Bill Cosby did. So therefore, it was leaving the misconception for many readers, I would assume, that they were glorifying him for being a sex offender.
Right, and it's clickbait. It's just pure clickbait. It's bad journalism. Like, this is not how we should be doing this. Like, there's other stories out there like that are viable, and we should be focusing on them. The fact that they were having backroom meetings and there's photo evidence of that, and like there's stuff like that which no one's talking about, and it's like, you're insane. That's the illegal stuff. That should be the headline.
That's the headline. The illegal stuff should be the headline for sure. Like, because that's what people should be, focusing on. Yeah. Again,
it's nuts.
Yeah. We talked about this before. Yeah, we're frustrated that the press have got headlines which could be the best for everyone involved.
Yeah.
So tackling the issues, tackling the legal cases, and spreading the information about what is actually alleged to have happened and what's going to be in the court case. Those are the hot topics. Those are the things that,
and they're genuine. We should be talking about those.
They're the things that make a difference. Like what the name of the room was where the illegal things happen shouldn't be of any consequence.
Yeah, especially when we're assigning contemporary accounts with in retroactive. Like, you can't do that. Like, this is disingenuous. It's misinformation. We shouldn't be doing this. Like, we should be focusing on what has actually happened here, which is, this room was used for backdoor meetings and people were getting promotions because they were hanging out in this, and that's the discrimination case that directly links in with the court filing.
Yeah.
This is what we should be talking about. We shouldn't be talking about what the friggin' name of the room was called, because they were probably just huge fans of Bill Cosby at the time before he got any allegations against him. Like, we shouldn't be talking about that. All you're doing is just trying to stick emotions to the wall because you want to. Basically, you're trying to piss people off. That's it. That's what you're trying to do. And so
not... the picture as well they want to give again, people are going to automatically feel anger towards those people that are in that picture.
And it's just and I don't want to use the word unfair because I'm not trying to defend these people at all. I'm just saying that we can focus on the right thing here, and we can really pin them to the wall for the right things,
for the right reasons, and not something that even if they're guilty, if they could argue against slanderous elements, then that's giving them. If they are guilty, it's giving them ammunition to defend
what is, because this is in the court filing as well, this Cosby Room, which is misspelled as well, like good old lawyers anyway, but the Cosby Room is mentioned in the court filing, and if any of these people come out and say, we didn't know about this is slander, this is defamation, we're going to sue you back, if that happens, then are we what are we supposed to say here? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of you're sort of shooting yourself in the foot, and we shouldn't be doing that. We should be pinning these people to the wall for what they did, which is absolutely heinous and egregious as it is. We shouldn't be giving them any free shots, if we can. So we just need to stay focused.
Due diligence, isn't it? At the end of the day, and they just the journalistic intent and
it's just, I don't know. It's
just not a good time at the minute.
It's rough, man. Anyway, but we should move on anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, enough of that bad news.
Yes, bad stuff.
One thing I did want to mention, some good news anyway.
With Xbox
have had a very, very good week, and we have to give them credit where credit is due, because they've been sort of lagging behind, and a lot of people wondering when this sort of stuff was going to catch up. And now I think we're starting to see the fruits of the labor from Microsoft and what Phil Spencer has sort of been pushing towards for the past sort of few years, and we're starting to see drips of that come out, which is great. Obviously, we mentioned before, Microsoft just released Microsoft Flight Simulator for the Xbox Series X, which is on the consoles, which is running at very similar settings to sort of ultra settings on the PC. Looks absolutely phenomenal. The game looks amazing. I played about I think I played like 15 minutes of it. Like I haven't played enough to sort of give any like feedback or criticism or any like sort of praise for it yet. But
Yeah,
game looks
initial thing is game looks great.
Yeah, it looks
that's cool that you downloaded it and stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
cool.
I mean, it's a huge game as well. It's like 100 gigabytes or something. So like, be forewarned. But it's on Game Pass. Like people should check it out.
It was bigger. They've reduced it.
Yeah,
which
even that is insane.
Yeah,
even that is insane. But yeah, other than Flight Simulator, though, they also had a release for a Microsoft exclusive, which is Death's Door, which is a nice little indie game, which not many people heard about until it sort of started making headlines. And Eurogamer gave it like an essential rating. It's getting 9s and 10s. Like people are really enjoying this game. So yeah. Great news.
I read about it when you put it up on the show notes.
A lot of people don't know about it. Yeah.
And then I went and I Googled it and I started watching some gameplay. And yeah, it looks gorgeous. It looks great.
Yeah.
It looks like that rare thing that games have, even like my favorite games, where it looks appealing. Like it looks like something you just want to dive into and play with and explore. And that's difficult for any game. But
yeah.
So yeah.
No,
it's getting good reviews and the color palette just looks sublime.
I love the sort of monochromatic with like the punches of color. Like I really like that sort of stuff anyway. But it just looks really unique. I think like we need more games like this where it sort of harkens back to the sort of old style of game, but mixed in with contemporary games. Like, and this is the good stuff about indie. Like it sort of inspires this sort of stuff. So it's great. It's apparently like a dungeon crawl, like Zelda like. Souls-like game. It's meant to be quite difficult, but like really rewarding. But a lot of people are saying really good things about this.
Yeah, it's got an interesting health system from what I've seen. It's similar to Souls, but not quite. So It's a bit more user-friendly in that respect. And as well, some of the mechanics look quite interesting. Like they're taking little bits and pieces of cool other indie games, but they're kind of got their own spin on it. So they're not just, it's not just a generic game. It's like it's its own thing, like the way it deals with power-ups and stamina and moves and health and things.
Yeah, there's a lot of elements.
Creative flourishes.
Have you ever played Hyperlight Drifter?
No, I've not played it. No. You should
check that out. I think that'll be like if you're into like sort of Death's Door sort of style of game, then you should check out Hyperlight Drifter. It's a really great sort of little indie game. It's pixel art based, but it's absolutely fantastic. And everyone should play it.
I still haven't played Hollow Knight. I still need to get around to playing that.
That's another one, yeah. It's another great game. A lot of great indie games anyway. But other than that, yes. I think what else has Xbox done? Of course, Halo Infinite had a beta.
The beta.
Everyone is talking about this thing. Everyone likes it. Everyone's saying it's awesome. Everyone's having fun with it, which is great news. I don't know if that is sort of like their marketing strategy, the way that they've sort of navigated this and give it to the right people, as it were. Like there's a lot of hardcore Halo players that have been given a beta key to actually try this stuff out. And but even the journalists that have gotten it, they've been saying it's an absolute blast to play. So that's good news.
I saw a tweet from one of the devs that was like, they were reading some of the comments about the game and it made him burst out into tears of joy.
Awesome. I love that.
Because of the feedback that some of the love that was from hardcore fans that were playing it. And that's a bit of good news at the moment. We need a bit of that.
Yeah, I
mean, doing a good job and getting praised, and
there was a lot of talk around Halo Infinite, and obviously like it had a really bad reveal.
It had a big bump. Like and they fell on their face. They fell all the way over. It's good. All the hate they got because it's in development when they were showed it.
But I like the fact that they've sort of got back on their feet, and they've sort of hit back and listened to feedback, obviously. And there was the reveal. I think a lot of the reveal issues came from the lighting engine. If I'm being honest, like looking at this from like an artist sort of point of view, I think they just didn't have their lighting rendering set up properly for the in-game stuff. So everyone looked really flat and didn't look great. And then as soon as they updated that and they started showing screenshots, it was just like, all right, this looks 10 times better now. Yeah. So like outside of the way the game looks, everyone's mostly talking about how it plays, which is a really encouraging sign. Like
which is what you want.
Yeah, that's the second best thing. Like they've fixed the way that it looks, and now they're gonna fix the way it plays, which is good news. Like I'm really excited about the game. I'm really looking forward to it coming out now, especially with all this good praise. And like you said, if the developers are like watching this feedback and getting emotional about it, then it's good news for them guys as well. So I'm sure they're really excited about it.
Yeah, because I mean, I can't imagine being a dev on that team, but like,
hard.
Working on a dream project like that, because it's going to be, no one's going to be working on there that's kind of like, first person shooter, Halo, they'll all be like, they're all going to at least, they'll at least be appreciative of how important Halo is in the gaming space.
I agree.
Especially for Microsoft and so the fact that there was a lot of hate and worry and upset from the flat lighting, there would have probably been foot in the mouth for the last few months, and then now it seems like this is
free sale labor is coming out.
This is like the payoff, really. So all they needed to have done to fix that was just delay the video or just show some screenshots, you know, and then everyone would have been happy. So I think a learning experience.
I mean, you always learn from the worst moment anyway, so it's kind of, but I'm really glad that like people, not only the developers have picked themselves up and actually got this thing out so people are enjoying it as much as they are, but also just the fact that gamers are actually receiving it better than it originally was. It's sort of like that's all forgotten news now. Like it's good to see that gamers aren't just on the hate train constantly for this thing, which is good. Like, I'm glad that they've given it a second chance, and I'm glad that it's being received well. So, and
at E3, the cinematic that they had where it looked really great. So coming on leaps and bounds, and it's made me really look forward to the release of the game. So
absolutely. But the only other like piece of good sort of Xbox news was not really because of anything that they did. I think it's just because PlayStation had a pretty bad week around their sort of conversation around expandable storage on the PlayStation 5. They're sort of getting fed their own medicine. Like back in going back to like 2013 or something, when they were announcing the PlayStation 4, there was a lot of like joking around about how difficult it is to share games on the Xbox versus the PlayStation 4, because back then the Xbox was DRM based, so you had to like there was like a weird license and stuff to like borrow games, or like there was no sort of trade-ins or something. So there's a lot of like jest, but now like the opposite is sort of happening, because Xbox expandable storage is a lot easier and a lot cheaper to do than it is on the PlayStation 5. You have to take the console apart and sort of get the right stick of memory to fit in, and it has to be a certain speed, and it has to be a certain price, and like for 1 terabyte it costs like hundreds upon hundreds of pounds, or like almost like $1,000 to expand to like a terabyte of storage, which is too much. Like it's not it's technology that is too early. In a few years, I think the prices are going to come down dramatically on all this sort of stuff, so it will be a viable thing in the future. And I think they're just future proof, and I don't think this is, you're not meant to go out and buy storage for it today, because that's just way too expensive. It's not enough
games for you to fill a terabyte yet, is there? I suppose.
So Xbox have had a good week for that, because they're just now, it's funny watching Xbox's sort of social media feed, because they're just pushing, look how easy it is to do like expandable storage, look how cheap it is. We've got a sale on our expandable storage, it's only $200 for a terabyte and stuff like this. So like fair
enough, fair play,
I can't blame them, but like hopefully like
it's a bit see-through, isn't it?
It is very see-through, but they've got to take the shot, especially of PlayStation have left themselves open in that respect. But
I mean, there's still people like me, still making the decision about what they're going to be buying, and some people, I don't know who, but there will be a X amount of people where storage is a huge
big time
thing. I mean, it definitely was for the PlayStation 3 era, where it was like comparing what storage, how much money X console is going to be, and I remember that, But I just think we're in a different world now, where most people are going to be streaming or getting digital copies of things, or
this is true. I think the whole like debate about storage is probably going to come down and down and down, especially when it comes to like, why have an RPG on your system when you can stream it, because like having that little bit of latency actually doesn't make a difference, really. It just doesn't. But having an FPS on your console like native is probably more important, because you need it to be snappy and responsive. So it'll be an interesting conversation to see where we are in a few years' time on this issue. But right now it just like yeah, Xbox are taking a lot of cheap shots, which sort of PlayStation have sort of let themselves open about. But you know, you can't blame them for taking them.
I'm like doing a video game podcast, and this all went over my head until you just told me. So their marketing didn't reach to me.
Yeah.
And I must be on all their algorithms, like this guy plays games.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not got all the way around yet. Or maybe I'm just busy and I'm not doing my job very well.
It's almost like you just bought a house or something, Chris.
It's almost like I've been busy doing something life-changing, like buying a house. Yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, I think the only other news which I've seen is the confirmation from a couple of outlets that Horizon Forbidden West has been delayed until the first quarter of next year, which is kind of gutting, but it is what it is. I mean, COVID's happened. They've got a lot of motion capture and voice acting to sort of probably still do, and they can't really do that without being in studio, and especially if they're doing motion capture in like the full-on suits with the amount of head-mounted displays and stuff. So it's very difficult to do that without. So they're probably just lagging behind a little bit for that. But my sort of opinion is let it cook. If it's going to be a great game, so I'm happy for them to take some time, and we've got plenty to play until it comes out anyway, so it's all good.
Yeah, I'm always like, to me, I always think of it as good news now. Whenever I get delays, I'm like, oh, thank God they delayed it and didn't just release it.
Yeah, if it's a genuine delay and it's not like around like sort of marketing strategies, or if it's to do like, oh, like this window is better than this window and all that sort of stuff, like it's transparent when that stuff happens, and when it does, it's annoying and it's horrible and no one likes it, especially the developers. But when it comes to a case like this where they genuinely need a little bit more time, then more power to them. Let it cook. I think it'll be great. I can't wait for it. It's going to be a great game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. But it gives me enough time to save up for a PlayStation. So
this is true. This is very true. But speaking of PlayStation, sir, we've heard that you've been playing a PlayStation game recently.
I have. ICO. We've been doing this podcast nearly an hour now, and now we're only just starting talking about ICO.
It's all right. It's going to be a long one, I think. We're probably going to go for another 20 minutes or half an hour or something. So if you are here, then you're here for the long ride, I guess it was.
The long haul.
Yeah, the long haul. Yeah, long ride. What am I talking about?
I don't want to know.
Well, you know, she doesn't complain. God, that was terrible. She'd probably say that to me, actually. No, that's still terrible. No, I can't get out of this one. I'm screwed either way. No, that's still terrible. Like, I'm just going to stop talking. There we go. Chris, what have you been playing, sir?
So, I've been playing ICO.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed it. Yes, this is not how I thought this conversation was going to start. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I've been playing it over the last couple of weeks. My boy's been playing it with me for a little bit as well.
Oh, okay.
He's just been telling me where to go and what to do and stuff. But yeah, we've been on the same page with that, so that was good. But we talked about that last week.
Yeah, I mean, big disclaimer here. Like, obviously, I'm not going to be very critical of this.
You're a super fan.
Yeah. ICO is my favorite game of all time. It was the reason why I got into video games, like in terms of concept art and development and stuff. Like, this was the game that sparked something in me, just like, holy crap, like, what is this? This is something completely different. Because this game came out in 2001 at the same time as like Metal Gear Solid 2 was coming out. I think there was I think Final Fantasy X just came out that year as well. It hit an unfortunate window in like where a lot of people didn't play it because it
just got overshadowed by some bigger things.
It got overshadowed by bigger things. It also came out, I think it was in the same month as, obviously, September 11th, 2001, which obviously not a lot of people were sort of looking for fun at that point, for obvious reasons. So there was, it hit like a long series of unfortunate events where like it didn't shine as much as it probably should have. But over the years, it's sort of, it's come about that a lot of people that make the influential games that we're playing right now were actually huge fans of this game, and it sort of shows through. But it's interesting that you played it.
Shows through.
Yeah, it's interesting that you played it 20 years later, and you're still enjoying it.
Oh man, I really enjoyed it. I think it was because it felt familiar, and I think that's because of all the later games. Like for me, it was like Uncharted. It was just like a fantasy version of Uncharted. That's kind of like you can feel like the Uncharted series used ICO as an influence, for sure. There were so many things about it which I enjoyed, and it kept surprising me all the way through. And so those are so yeah, the story was great in that it had subtitles, but it didn't need to have subtitles. It was the action which was telling the story. So the gameplay was telling you the story.
Yeah.
So that really helps with the immersion. And the mechanics just kept on coming and kept on evolving and changing and emerging. The way that you presented with puzzles was really clever, really well thought out.
Yeah.
The actual design of the castle that you play in, I was really amazed about how much game they kept fitting in. Like there's this level where you get to like these cogs, like these water wheels and the cogs, and you're like jumping on top of these cogs, and I was just like, I knew I was coming towards the end of the game, or it was like at least over halfway point, and I was like, geez, I'm still getting mesmerized by all these different environments that they keep popping up with. It was after like a massive story beat, which I was shocked at as well, and with the limited animation that's happening, I was just shocked about how much of a connection I had with the characters in the game, and with how little like I could understand them as well.
Yeah,
so
I mean the great thing about the game is, like I've got gameplay running on the video right now, so people can sort of see it. But like the whole premise of the game is basically you're just a boy that's been sort of put into this castle as a sacrifice for like a local town or something. You don't know any of this really. Like it doesn't really like matter that much. It's just you're a boy and you're trying to escape like out of this castle.
You put in a jar and you escape out of a jar.
Right.
You find a glowing lady, and the glowing lady can open doors. So she's like the key, but she's also vulnerable. And
you've got to guide her around. You've got to hold her hand and call her, and she helps you like solve puzzles, and you help her like get through certain areas and stuff. So it's basically it's a game about communication, and without being able to communicate, like they don't speak the same language.
They don't speak the same language, yeah.
And you don't speak their language either. Like
I don't speak their language,
right?
Yeah.
So it's just really I think that's where like most of the main connection comes from, is the fact that you understand exactly
all three of us are in the same boat.
All three different languages, all trying to like understand each other, but we're all trying to help each other, sort of thing. And that is really cool.
And there were frustrations with and I think some of the frustrations were with the technology at the time. Like some of the AI isn't great,
without a doubt. Yeah.
Some of the when you've got to set fire to a bomb with a stick, sometimes like you can press the joystick and you will instantly pivot, but you've got to have the stick resting over the bomb at the right sweet spot.
At the right angle, yeah. There is actually, like, this is another thing. Like, there's so many like, weird things that are hidden within this game that no one, like, you never get told. Like, there's actually a button that you can press to, like, hold this stick with the fire to the bomb to light it, sort of thing.
What?
But you don't know, but, like, you can just, like, line it up like you're talking about and do it. And that's how most people do it, because they're just never told that there's actually an action button to do it.
What's the button?
I don't know what it is. I think it's circle or something. But there is a way you can do it. But that's the thing. Like, they never tell you, like, a lot of stuff in this game. They just sort of throw you in the deep end, and you figure it out.
They don't tell you how to swing on a rope. And the first few ropes, or chains even, the first few chains you get up, you can jump off with triangle. So triangle is to jump.
Yeah.
So you have the ability to practice swinging by just pressing the circle button. But they give you 2 tries of like, maybe they will, maybe they won't press the circle button to swing, because you can get to the ledge from a chain either from swinging or jumping, and then there's a puzzle where you need to swing, and that was just I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really clever games design. I thought that was
there's a lot of things it does, like sort of outside of the box. And I think
there's so many different
I think I mentioned this last week, but like the developer itself, like the director Fumito Ueda, he wasn't really like, he'd never directed a game, like he'd never even thought about game design. He was an animator on another game, but that was it. And then he just pitched this idea to Sony, and they took it on and gave him a budget. So there's a lot, you can tell there's a lot of stuff where it's just him trying to figure stuff out. And it's done in such an organic, like, genius way that because if he was a games designer, a lot of these things, like, there would be like a stupid tutorial at the start of the game and text boxes and like there would be UI and things like this, like the idea of not having any UI.
the girl will be explaining stuff for you. In any other game,
right?
The
They would use her.
Would go, we need to get her to explain how things work in the game. Otherwise, how are people gonna figure it out?
Yeah, and just like the balls of that, I love that. Like, I think that's one of the strongest points of the game is the fact that you sort of just like try to look at it from a common sense standpoint instead of like what you're supposed to do. You know.
And to be able to guess what people are going to do en masse and enjoy the experience with no fallback or because even modern games now they'll do systems in place where they'll give you a few chances to try and get it, and then if not, some player characters will start giving you hints after a certain time limit or after a certain threshold isn't hit to sort of feel like you're organically being guided. That doesn't happen with this game, and probably because of technical limitation as well.
Sure.
But it seems like it was definitely a design choice as well. Like, the girl doesn't help you in some things. That just you have to figure it out. And then in some things, some really obvious things, she does sit there and point at a freaking thing. And I'm like, yeah, I know that. But that might not be obvious to everyone else. I don't know.
Right.
So, yeah. And so it's one we could talk about for a long time. One of the Easter eggs, and also it was just like, oh my god, this is just Uncharted. I started climbing up a drain pipe from when I'm in this big underwater bit, and then the drain pipe fell off the wall,
right,
just like in Uncharted.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, this drain pipe fell off the wall, and I landed in the water. That was just lifted straight onto Uncharted.
Yeah. And it's been in interviews as well. Like Neil Druckmann is a fan of it. Like, he's played it. Yeah. So it's kind of like, like, and I'm pretty sure he's mentioned like it's one of his favorite games, and it's kind of like, yeah, you can totally see it. And I'm sure Amy Hennig as well, like she was the writer or the lead designer or the producer or something. She was leadership on the original Uncharted as well. I think similar sort of thing. So there's a lot of. It's just the influence of this game. It's just all over the industry, and very famously, like Miyazaki, the guy that makes Souls games, like the Souls series, he wasn't even in the games industry, and he played ICO, and that was the game that was just like, holy crap, I want to make video games. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Like I want to have that feeling of like wandering around a castle, like I did in ICO again.
Yeah.
And he ended up making Demon Souls based on that, and that's probably like ICO is probably the sole reason why Demon Souls is based in a castle. Right. Like on the first level, is because that was the influence.
Because of like the eco.
Yeah. So
that's great.
It's. I mean, the genesis of this game is just it's all over the place, and
it has far-reaching roots, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the game's design. It feels like it really resonated with me on a games designer level. Like, it feels like it was designed for games designers to enjoy.
I agree.
It feels like it was a game for
It's a good Bible to look at for games design, just like in how in terms of how it teaches the player how to play, like just not having any crazy tutorials, not having UI, like the stripped down minimalistic nature of the game is just such a good benchmark for how minimalist you can be about this certain stuff.
Yeah.
Like, because people are constantly worrying about onboarding, like what we call onboarding in games development, of like when you bring in a new player and you've got to explain all the systems. Like, this game does it sort of perfectly in the way that like it's show don't tell sort of thing. And I love that aspect of it.
It's show don't tell. It uses cutscenes really cleverly. It really sparingly. They're used right when you need them.
Yeah.
But it doesn't give you. It's not overdone. Doesn't feel. I don't feel like I'm being talked down to or belittled like in some games where it's like, where do I need to go? Oh, all right, the camera's showing me where I need to go. But that's because the level is set out in a way that it looks complicated and a bit clunky and a bit difficult. Sometimes in ICO there'll be corridors just stretched out for a long way, and that's just part of the design aesthetic.
Yeah, that's one of the best things. Like, the sense of space in ICO is just, it's hard to explain, but like you get the sense of a big room, not from like, oh, here's a cool shot of the big room sort of thing, which it does do now and then, don't get me wrong, but it makes you like, if there's a set of steps like in the start of the game, when you first come across the girl, Yoda, when you like, she's at the top of this tower, and there's no like, it's not like it's a cutscene where it's just him walking up the tower sort of thing. No, you have to climb the steps.
You have to walk up the tower, so it feels like
Yeah, so
whatever
when
was
you
at the
get
top.
up there, like, Jesus,
Yeah.
this is a big room. And the whole castle is
Yeah.
like that, because you feel like the sense of scale of ICO is just, it's huge, it's massive. And
Yeah.
there's a lot more of that in, like, the sequels in Shadow of the Colossus, but it's very much, the sense of space in ICO is
It
really
feels
well
like
done.
an impressive castle, considering that the textures are of its time and to modern standards are pretty garbage. Like, it's, you know, the feel of the space and actually walking around in the space, yeah, it feels impressive. It feels lush. It feels grand. It feels like there were people that lived there and they would
Yeah.
use all these machines and contraptions and stuff, and it feels like it was populated. And the fact that it's it's kind of linear gameplay, really. There's like one tiny central
Yeah.
part where you branch off from, but it's primarily a single player campaign where you come across puzzles and play through it. But the fact that it still feels like a real world, and the world building was really well done, that's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like, after
multiple
multiple playthroughs as well, you actually find that the different areas have got sort of functions to them, like as a castle almost. Like, there's a cemetery, there's like a sewer system, there's all this sort of stuff. Like the gate system as well is just like obviously a massive part. Like, it's sort of like a meta puzzle within the game, trying to figure out how to open the front gates. Like, all of that, like, all of it sort of makes sense in context, and like, you don't know it playing the game, but like, you later, he actually like mapped out the entire castle as well. It wasn't just like, because I know you go into like certain areas and there's a transition because of the loading screen, but it isn't just, it isn't levels almost. Like, he's actually designed the entire castle. It's actually like, you can, like, I found the 3D model of like the whole castle, and you can literally just fly around and people have joined it together, and it's an actual space, like completely flushed out sort of thing, and it's just him going from one room to the next, and he sort of planned out the game that way, and you can see it, and it's not, none of it is just like, a lot of people think, oh, it's just a series of levels, but it's actually not. It's a coherent place. So it's one of the great things about it.
And the weird thing as well is, like, you think when you first start and you play the first quarter of the game, you think, okay, I know what it's going to look like. It's going to look like this, but more.
Yeah.
But no, you go down into like the sewers and the pipe work, and you go into like water wheels and cogs. There's like a windmill.
Oh, the windmill alone. Such a great moment.
There's like caverns as well. You walk around these massive rocky catacomb cave type bits as well.
Yeah.
And all within this island that's on like a castle on like an island, and it's just like, that's just impressive. Like, the fact that it doesn't look all same, and it feels like you're going through an actual journey from place to place. Like, you feel like you're progressing. If like you get that endorphin rush from going into a new place.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the great things which you mentioned last week as well is like, when you do get into a new area and you can sort of see like either an old area that you've already been
from
at,
a different perspective.
You see like another area. It's like, oh, I wonder what's over there. Like, am I ever going to get to that point over there? And you always do as well. Like, it's never like a fake sort of background almost. Like, whenever you see like another area, like, you eventually get to it at some point. So, like, I love that aspect to it as well.
Yeah, and that kind of brings me to the camera, because I kind of had a love-hate relationship with the camera, because it's
one of the oldest things about it.
Yeah, so it's dated, but some of the camera work, because where you walk, the camera will change location, so it will give you a different view. So in that, the game's designer, when they were designing it, they can frame the image really well, so they can give you a nice looking image, and I did appreciate those because they were really well done. So sometimes you'd have great views of the level. Sometimes when you're in a smaller corridor, maybe this is why there's lots of vast open spaces. When you're in a smaller location, that kind of got a bit annoying, a bit janky, and where I was trying to walk wasn't where I was walking, so that felt a bit, it didn't feel like I was the character. I didn't feel like I was ICO. But towards the end of the game, it comes into its own, and it really, there's some bits which are just really silky smooth. So that's interesting, and it's such an old way of doing the camera now. Like, we don't have that in many games now, where wherever you're walking will determine what the camera view is. Because it's even, I would say it's better than Mario 64 in terms of the camera work.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
that's kind of like a similar
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
There is a love-hate relationship, and like even the control layout. This game is 20 years old now. Like you've got to give
20 years old,
which is sort of insane. Like if you think about it.
I forgive it totally because of its age. Yeah.
I mean,
because of what it brings.
Yeah, this is like the biggest sort of like the biggest disservice to the games industry is Blue Point Games making a Demon Souls remake instead of an ICO remake. It's just like I will never forgive them, sort of thing. So like it needed it, I think.
Another thing which blew me away, I know it sounds crazy, again this is probably because it's like for a games designer's game,
right,
was the box. The box blew me away because the box you can drag, and you can only drag it forwards or left and right.
Yeah.
And that's great.
So like on a grid almost, right?
On a grid.
So you pull it once and then it goes into a certain spot.
And when you're on one side of the box, you can push it forward or you can push it back. So you can't press left and it won't drag it left. So some games after that, yeah, you can drag it left. Fine, fair enough. But then the box goes into water and you can swim with it in any direction.
Yeah.
And that just blew my mind. Like the fact that you've got those two different mechanics, the two different like locomotive, like when you're swimming and dragging the box is going whichever way. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But you never bring the box back onto land. So once the box is in the water, that's it. Like the puzzle that you need to stand on the box or whatever.
It's a very elegant sort of solution to it, and they probably did try and figure that out, and they couldn't, so they were just like, screw it, let's just keep it in the water if we ever put it in the water. But it is interesting to think that, okay, like the reason why it's on a grid, like on the ground, is so they can sort of control how you move it around or where you can put it, so they can really hone in tight.
So there's only a grid system of where it could possibly go,
which is,
and one of those is on a switch,
which makes makes a lot of sense. But then like when you do put it into water, it's like, oh wait a minute, so like they just created two systems.
Yeah,
right. It doesn't make any sense.
There's two systems now that's working seamlessly, and it just fits within the world, and that blew me away. Like if you think about the last Uncharted games, you can wheel around wheelie bins and they can go around anywhere.
That's where it came from, right? Yep.
And that's pretty cool. And you can like put it up to a drain pipe and then climb up the drain pipe. But it doesn't have a system where the wheelie bin then goes into water and then you stand on the wheelie bin. Like,
yeah,
it's doing some pretty
heavy.
It's doing some stuff where we're not doing in AAA games now.
Yeah.
Which, when you think about, like, this isn't happening in modern games.
Yeah, how do they miss these lessons? Like sometimes it's kind of nuts that they do, but yeah. So what? Like I do have that question actually. What Easter egg did you find?
That was the pole. Like I climbed up. Well, I thought.
Okay, so
really
like the
right. I climbed up the pole and it was a red herring. So I wasn't supposed to go up the pole. It was a red herring. So I climbed up the pole and the pole broke and I just fell into the water because I shouldn't have gone there. That was not where I was supposed to go.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really clever and a great little touch. They didn't need to put that pipe in there. It wouldn't have changed the game.
Yeah.
People might have missed the pipe. Like they might have just figured out that they need to not go anywhere near that bit, which you didn't need to go. And yeah. So was that an Easter egg? No, you weren't thinking of that as being an Easter egg?
I guess so. I mean, like because there is a secret in the game. There's a secret sword that you can find, which a lot of people don't know about. But it's kind of like, to be blunt about it, there's a lightsaber in the game that you can find.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and it's not like an actual lightsaber from Star Wars or anything, but it's very much similar. But like it's just a normal, like it's got a tiny little like length on it, and it's like one hit kills for everything pretty much.
Oh, nice.
But if you're holding Yoda's hand, then it like extends out by like 5 or something, so it's massive. So he can just like chop stuff up like it's like nobody's business.
Is that an innuendo for something?
I don't know. There's got to be something in there, right? But it's hilarious either way. But that's like the only Easter egg that I really know about in ICO, I guess. Like that's the main one. But there's
where is it?
It's a really convoluted way of getting it. You have to it's basically a grove with a bunch of trees in it at some point that you just go through to get to another puzzle area, and you can completely bypass all of this. But if you hit like one of the trees, it drops like a boulder out of it, and you've got to pick up the boulder and put this boulder inside of another place, and then it activates it, and then like you get a sword. Like it's a really convoluted, like you wouldn't find it just by wandering around.
Wandering around trying to play the game.
Yeah, you would have to know about it. So it's I think it's more of like a developer Easter egg that they put in so they can make it easier for themselves when the game finally did come out. But like obviously like these things don't stay secret forever, and like it was found pretty quickly. But it's in there. Right. But go check it out. Like ICO Lightsaber, it's in there. Sort of breaks the game, but it's a fun little thing.
I did like the enemies. We've talked about the enemies before, but again, the enemy animations, the enemy AI, what they were doing, because there's no textures; they're just like black.
Right. They're basically like shadow monsters. Almost.
Shadow monsters. And fair enough, with the technology, if I was making a game, I'd want to do a shadow monster because you don't have to think about textures or modeling or.
Yeah, I mean, this game was it was like what would be considered a launch title for the PlayStation 2. So it's we're talking really early stuff here. So
But they're creepy. Like they creep me out.
Yeah.
They've got that uncanny humanoid thing going on. They move in a really scary, creepy way, and they are a real nuisance. And when they are nearly they drag away the lady and they take her into a portal, like I don't want it to be game over because then everyone turns into stone after a certain amount of time. She goes into the hole. Like you got to pull her out of the hole. The amount of times I pulled that lady out of the hole, jeez.
That's an innuendo.
But I really enjoyed that mechanic, like because if it didn't have those enemies in there and it didn't break up the puzzles, it would have been a much more boring game, and it kept that tension all the way through. Like,
I agree.
At what point? Because it's going to be triggered by like pulling a lever or opening a door or completing an element of a puzzle, and you need to then rush back to the lady to defend her. And so where she is and isn't became a real thing that you think about like as tactics. So there's like the macro, and again it's another great example of like a games designer's thing is that the woman can go wherever you can go within reason. She can't climb up chains.
Right.
So where she literally is, every single footprint that she makes will determine how quickly you can get back to her
to defend her if they can try and get her. Yeah.
So you've got like the overall tactics of where do I place her and the minute to minute action of the actual combat of the fighting, and all that mixed in with the elements of the puzzles was just done in such a really well thought out, really well balanced way to have a really overall complete experience, really. If I was doing, at no point did I think, they should never have had enemies there. And whenever I was shocked at when they did have enemies, I always enjoyed that shock. Like, oh no, here come the enemies. Oh no.
I mean, the good thing about them is like they introduce some of them that've got like flight abilities, and they can like pick her up and like take her away somewhere else. And when that happens, it's kind of like, oh crap, like how the hell am I going to go over there? And then just like after you finally do get there, okay, climb down these ladders, okay, jump off this, get down there, like, oh crap, I've got no one to fight, and then you finally get over to her,
or
and
you
like
get
just her
hand
is like hanging out of the thing, then you have to drag her out, and then you have to carry on. Like it's such a great sort of set of like tools that they use to sort of, like you said, like they keep tension all the way through the game using that, which is great.
Because it's like it's combining a timer. There's like a time limit. But there's random, because when she gets caught, there's a time limit, but it's depending on where she is from whichever portal they get flown to.
Yeah.
There's skill elements because you've got to like evade the enemies; they can still knock you over, and when you get knocked over, there's a time limit before you can get back up again.
Yeah.
So it is an element of time, it's an element of skill, but it's combining those together and balanced in such a way that she goes into that mechanic is used time and time again, and every time it's used, you feel the urgency.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel overdone. It doesn't feel.
Yeah, I mean the only time it ever gets frustrating at any point is if you ever try and get the platinum on ICO, and like people that have gotten the platinum on ICO will know. But there's an achievement that you can get, or a trophy, which is the platinum trophy of.
Never going in the hole.
No, it's called Castle Tour Guide. Yeah, that was it. And you've basically got to finish the game in 2 hours.
Oh.
Which sounds insane. It's because it is, and you've got to run through the whole thing. And when she's like doing something that she's not meant to be doing, or she gets caught by someone flying around, like it can pretty much ruin a run when you're trying to like finish the game in under 2 hours. So it's kind of, that's the only time it ever gets frustrating, when she like does something silly and she gets caught by one of the things and she's flying away like, no, we need to get to the next area. Right. Yeah. And you can literally see the platinum trophy fly away, and that's that's the worst thing about it. But yeah, it's only under that circumstance. But if you're just playing it like as a normal sort of circumstance, then you never hit that sort of frustration with it.
So I've got a question for you. You might not have come across this, and maybe you have, maybe you haven't. When you open, but spoilers ahead story-wise.
Sure.
When you open the doors and then you walk out, and then you go across the drawbridge, and the drawbridge is in two parts, and it combines as part of opening the door process.
Yep.
Then when you're like halfway across the bridge, the two drawbridges of stone sort of start to separate. Yeah. Did you stay on your side?
Oh, did you try and jump?
Or have you? Or did you jump across straight away?
I always jumped across, I guess. Like, I've never tried. What did you do?
So I thought...
Excuse me.
I assumed that you'd had to go across your side and figure out a way to get back to her to, like, rescue her.
Right, okay.
So I kept going, and the game kept playing, and the drawbridge kept going all the way up to the end, and is a bit where you can't climb on.
Okay.
So there's like basically the ledge is too high, you can't jump up.
Right. So it just like goes under him and then he falls off.
So then I was like, but then like the piece of rock, there's like a bit that dips down, and I climbed on that because you can like go onto ledges, which again is really cool. Ledges. That's just in Uncharted, like the whole climbing up ledges thing.
Yeah, the whole thing is lifted straight from Uncharted.
What was I saying?
Yes, the other way
and
around.
I thought that the drawbridge would go under, and I would go into the mechanics of the drawbridge, and I would come down. But no, and the game played all the way up until the drawbridge completely went all the way to the end. So there was that whole time of me trying to figure this stuff out and trying to climb up and trying different things while the drawbridge was closing. And it wasn't until I fell into the water that it did the game over thing. And I thought that touch was just great, because the camera was on me all the time, and that was designed in to happen. Like, they could have gone, no, you didn't jump across the bridge, you didn't save us.
Yeah, game over sort of thing, go back to the start of the cutscene, but they let it happen in gameplay rather than...
Yeah.
Which is great. I love that stuff.
So I could explore my lack of options, but I still did, and, the fact that was left in, I just thought was a great little flourish. So that, you can do that. And then the next time I did it, and I jumped across.
Yeah.
One thing which I was a bit miffed at.
Okay.
Again, spoilers. When she turns to stone, she's reaching down to try and grab your hand.
Mm.
And then she turns to stone. So she's kneeling on a flat surface, and then she's leaning out down below that flat surface. But then when you rescue her, she's just like knelt there. But she should be awkward. Like, there should be an awkward hand that's trying to go through the floor.
Yeah, that's right.
So I was a bit annoyed about that. The end boss as well, that was really clever.
Yeah, like just trying to hide behind the pillars and stuff like that.
The mechanics of the
end boss. Takes you a while
to
figure it out, but once you do, you're like, oh, wait, okay, yeah, I get it now.
Yeah, and the fact that bosses exist in games and different mechanics and stuff, but like using what you've learned in the game and then having that end boss battle.
Yeah, there's a lot of reproducing things that you've learned, like all the lessons, which is great. Yeah. Like that's exactly what you want to try and get especially when you're designing the game. So
yeah, and then like the last quarter of the game, you get the freaking electric sword, and that's just freaking awesome.
Yeah, it just blows everything out of the water. But you earn it at that point. You feel like you've. Like, if you had that at the start of the game, it would ruin it, sort of thing. But
yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. The fact you start with a stick is great.
And then by the end, you've got this lightning sword thing. And like halfway through, you get a sword, and then it's a mace, and then like the evolution of like the things that you get and what you can do with them are just great. But, I love the game. I think it's like a masterclass in games design, and it's a shame that more people haven't played it. And I think a lot of that is attributed to the horrific cover art, which was on the North American version of the game.
Diabolical.
It's impressively bad. Impressively
Yeah.
bad. I give them that. But yeah, it's kind of impressive, like how terrible it is. But yeah.
And so, what's with the horns?
The horns has a lot to do with the story, and a lot of that
Because
goes
the boy's
back.
got horns.
Yeah,
And I'm assuming it's
So
because
this
he's
is
got
good.
horns that he's thrown into the prison.
that's exactly right. So in the book, anyway, like it's never explained in the game, and rightfully so. Like I don't think it really needs it in the game, so it's not really like it just adds like this mystery of like why he was sacrificed with the horns, and like the story is like just there's a village just outside of the like sort of the castle sort of region where it is. And the village itself, like they have a tradition, like every 100 years a child is born with horns, and when they are, they have to be sacrificed in the castle, because if they're not, then the castle will get angry and then it'll kill everyone basically in the region. So this is how they sort of appease its appetite, sort of thing. It goes back to like the whole King Kong thing and like feeding a princess to the dragon and stuff like that. It's very similar to that sort of stuff. So like he's born with these horns, and he can jump twice as high as any kid, and like he's twice as strong. And the book's really interesting. Like if you're really interested in the game and the story, then it's a good little companion piece to it. Wasn't really done in conjunction with the designers, I don't think. It was done by someone else, but it was given the blessing by the designers, and they give them their notes and stuff. But it fits. Like it does make sense. But yeah, that's basically the story behind the horns, though. Yeah.
Okay.
But there's really early tech demos where it's actually the girl that's got the horns, and he's just a normal kid. And because originally the game was meant to be on the PlayStation 1, but it got delayed, and then it got pushed onto the PlayStation 2. So a lot of this technology was already done on the PlayStation 1, which is even more crazy if you think about it. But yeah, it could have been a PlayStation 1 game. So in this footage, you can find it online. Like if people are interested in that sort of thing. But yeah.
But the swimming is like, I remember like Tomb Raider. If I think about Tomb Raider swimming, and then think about Eco swimming, it's different. Definitely, Eco's better.
Yeah, like Eco is probably like one of the best games with swimming in it. I would say, like just the way that you can control them and move them around. It's sort of insane that we didn't keep doing that in games. Like it's just a lesson that everyone missed. It was just like, yeah, we're not going to do that. It's like, are you insane?
Yeah.
But
the fact that and usually it'd be like, oh, game's successful, all right, we'll add swimming as like an afterthought, like Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West. Like the big thing that they're showcasing is the swimming. I mean, that looks amazing.
Yeah, it does look incredible, to be fair.
It looks mental, but like that's the trope of like, oh, the video game's done well, we can add swimming now. Same thing happened with Assassin's Creed,
right. That's fair.
But Eco got it straight out of the bat as like part of the core mechanics, which is introduced like midway through the game. Like you could argue like there's one bit where you can swim, but it's not integral to the game, because it again, it does that thing where it goes, here's a pool, guess what, you can land in it, you get the option to land in it. It doesn't help you play the game at all, but because you try it and play it like a little sandpit, by the time that it is part of a puzzle and you need to swim to get to the next place, you've already had that experience in like a safe environment where you didn't need to go in the swimming pool.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought that was, again, just all those little flourishes.
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a fantastic game. Like, I can't recommend it enough to people. I mean, it's hard to recommend. Like, if you're one of those people that get bothered by old dated graphics sort of thing, like, I mean, we were showing footage of it before. Like, if you're bothered by that, then I get it. And I would recommend off the bat of that to try The Last Guardian, because The Last Guardian is very, very close and similar to what Eco is. And it's really interesting because Eco is my favorite game, and I played it so many times. Like some of the puzzles that were in The Last Guardian, I just instinctively knew how to solve some of them, because I was just I'm so like embedded in this sort of like mindset of like how Ueda makes games and stuff. So like when like certain things were happening in The Last Guardian, it was like, oh, okay, I figured out that it's gonna do this. And then you watch other people online and like, how the hell, like, where is this thing? And they think this stuff is ingenious. It's like, yeah, he did this stuff in Eco years ago, and like nobody noticed. But it's this weird thing now that he's getting a bit more attention because of things like Shadow of the Colossus, that this sort of stuff is a bit more popularized, which is great. Like the guy is an amazing designer. I can't wait to see what he does next, whatever he is working on next. Just hopefully it isn't some crazy little mobile game, because that'd be the saddest thing in human history. But yeah, we'll see.
It's a really inspiring game. Like, I got so inspired playing it. Half of it was like, man, I could probably figure out how to code this. Man, I could probably figure out how to do that. Like 20 years ago, that was, yeah, they were pushing it.
Yeah.
But now you've got like great games design, which is like timeless and universal, because where I'm coming at it from a modern day thing, appreciating all the heck out of it, and thinking, man, I could put so much, I could just whack some cool textures on X, Y, and Z and make, you know, lift this, that puzzle, change this, that, or the other. And just thinking, man, how can I make my own eco game? Like,
you don't, but that's the point.
Yeah, but I thought I would be bothered by it. I was going in with underwhelming expectations. Maybe that's part of it.
Yeah,
I was expecting, because I played because again this year I'd played Uncharted 1, and I thought, oh, this is a bit clunky. I'm not quite sure where I need to go. The buttons just appear like this big on the screen, like press X now, and it's like that big on the screen, and all sorts of dated stuff. Whereas Eco looks dated, but it just doesn't feel dated.
Right. It's
weird.
It's a very cool game to play, I guess. Like this is why I'm really sad that it's not going to get a remake from Bluepoint, is purely because like the gameplay is fine. Like it's absolutely fine. Like they just need to update like a couple of things, like maybe a little bit of a better camera and just the graphics, and I think people would really appreciate like what sort of game this is, because it's really hidden away, and like I mentioned, like the only other sort of, you know, point they can go from there is like a recommended eco to people, like not eco, sorry, The Last Guardian. Because it's a very similar thing. It's about a boy in a castle or in an area trying to escape, and he's got a companion that he can't talk to, and they've got to build this relationship and all that sort of stuff, and it's very similar in that respect. So that's the next best sort of thing. And you know, Last Guardian got 10 out of 10s all over the place. Like people really enjoyed it, but again, it just flew right under the radar for a lot of people. Like a lot of people just did not play it for reasons around marketing or just like bad timing and stuff like that. It's just Ueda's always had sort of like bad luck when it comes to that sort of stuff,
to releasing games.
Yeah, I think so. But
release windows and stuff. Yeah, because we've got some gameplay on it here now, and it looks like it looks like a spiritual, well, not spiritual, it looks like eco, but that's just been modernized. So
it's an amazing game. Like The Last Guardian was my game of the year when it came out in 2016. I think it's still great. I'm really hoping that PlayStation release a 60 FPS version for it, because I think it deserves a bit more attention, especially from the PlayStation gamers that are sort of asking for more 60 FPS stuff, and I think that'll be a fantastic candidate for that. But
yeah,
who knows? But yeah, then I mean the next thing, I guess, for you, like, are you interested in playing The Last Guardian, or like are you more interested in the Shadow Colossus, or is there anything?
I thought, half of me is like, I can't really spend any money, so what can I find that's on PlayStation now? Because that's only £8-9 a month.
Is The Last Guardian on PlayStation now?
I don't think so, but I found that the Shadow of the Colossus HD is.
You're right.
And so I was going to play that, but now you're saying play the remake, and I'm like,
yeah, I mean, because the remake is so similar.
It's going to be worth it.
It'll be worth it, I think.
Yeah.
It'll be kind of hard to recommend.
So I might do that, or I might just, I'm definitely going to make my way through the series.
Yeah,
for sure. I want to play Shadow of the Colossus, and I want to play The Last Guardian.
Cool.
For sure. But what is Nico about?
Nico is, I can actually show you this. So after Eco came out, because Eco, like in Japanese, like the word for one is ichi, and like they sort of like shorten that down to e sometimes. So like Eco means like the one almost, pretty much. Then Nico came around, which is actually a tech demo for what would become the Shadow of the Colossus. But a lot of people don't know, but ni in Japanese is two. So ich, ni, san, yon. So it's
because you've got two knees. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So you can walk around with those things, which is great. No, but like Nico is basically the Shadow of the Colossus, like what it was originally meant to be. And this sort of DVD came around like an E3 conference, or it came with something. I can't actually remember what it was. But it's only
Is it playable then?
No, it's just a DVD sort of trailer to show off the game, and you can find the video on YouTube. It's around, but it had a very different sort of scope and scale of what originally, like, what you would have thought it was gonna be. Like, it completely changed over time, and what became the Shadow of the Colossus was completely different. But
okay,
that's why that's sort of the sort of genesis behind the sort of names. So like all the code names for the games is ICO, Nico, and then it's Trico or Trico, which is obviously Tri for 3, and Toriko, which what would have been Trico, I guess, in Japanese, but Toriko is the name of the creature in The Last Guardian. Like, so they like sort of give the code name for the project to the creature, almost like that's how he gained his name, Toriko. Like, a lot of people don't like know that, but yeah, it's a nice little sort of remnant of the game making process. So yeah, that's why Nico came out.
That's cool. I like that. Yeah, and I'll definitely be playing all of it. If there's similar, all it would need me to get to play it is like there's similar sort of puzzle elements and a similar feeling story, and that it's
I mean,
presented
Shadow of the Colossus is the one that's the most different, I guess, and that's a good thing for some people, but it's not for me, I guess. Like, I like the Eco and the Last Guardian sort of vibe to the games better, like the whole idea of like the feeling of space around you and things like that. But Shadow of the Colossus is basically a boss crawler. There's no other enemies in the game, you're just fighting these bosses,
right?
And the bosses themselves are the puzzles. Like, you don't just fight them like with skill or anything. You have to figure out how the hell to even like climb up them to actually kill them and actually get around to them. There's a really cool story behind it and stuff, and it's an amazing game, but it's just a very different vibe to what is in the Last Guardian Nico. But it depends on the flavor and stuff. So yeah.
Well, I was thinking of just doing it chronologically, just because. So
okay. Well,
I'll see.
There's spoilers there, but I'm not going to say them.
But the end cutscene, it wasn't, again, that could have been a cutscene.
Oh, you mean the post-credit stuff on
post-credit,
awesome.
Post-credit
so good
level?
Yeah.
Man.
Genius.
I was just like...
And they could have done that in a cutscene as well. But
the
fact that they made it playable is just like such a... This is...
I was so shocked.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is like 20-year game and I'm being surprised like right at the end.
Why don't we see more of that? You know, like it's, and I constantly like think, whenever I think about Eco or I replay it, it's just constantly like, why don't we see more of this? Why isn't this happening still? Like, why? Because all of this stuff is good. Like,
it's all good, and it's all rare. It's just bizarre.
Yeah.
But maybe again, it's like, well, is it dated? Is it like a dated universe? Like, the mystery side of things, like, because there's a book about it, but like with like RPGs and stuff, there'll be like a huge chunk of lore that you can whack into the game. That's but because of the minimalist stripped down aesthetic, you've just got to kind of fill in the gaps with like what the shadow monsters are, who the bad boss lady is, like all that sort of stuff. But again, I quite like that.
Yeah.
And because it's like a weekender game and like it's only like 10 hours. I think I did it in like 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
So it's a really short game, but I really enjoyed that. But because of that, you can't fit in a shed load of lore. So maybe that's something to do with why similar games aren't done. I don't know. Yeah,
that's fair. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, but it's just certain elements that it's crazy to me that certain elements haven't made it into the modern game. Because we're sort of like there's been a lot of complaining about this over the last sort of decade of how we've lost the mystery of video games, like the whole like, okay, like you boot up a new game and you're just sort of thrown in the deep end, and like the fun of it is trying to figure it out without any sort of hand holding or anything like that, like show don't tell mechanics of like tutorials where we're not actually presented any information with text. We're just throw, like, you figure it out.
Figure it out through play.
You're a gamer, you can figure it out, and you can, like 9 times out of 10, to be fair. And we've sort of lost a lot of that, and I think Eco is like the epitome of that sort of idea of like, just there's no tutorial in that game,
No.
that you can see it. There is, but it's like non-perceivable. Like you don't really understand that it is a tutorial.
Designed into the fabric of the walls and
Right.
the layout and where the camera is, and
you're just playing the game and you're figuring stuff out. Like, oh, okay, the switch does that. Okay, I have to push this to. Okay, that opens that, and you're just figuring stuff out, and you feel like a genius every time as well.
Yeah.
Because like it's not telling you, hey, push this switch to open door. You're like, oh, thanks, Dad. Pushing it like.
Yeah.
No one
Isn't
wants
it
to be told
interesting
what to
though
do.
as well? Like I can't think. Is there a time where you need to press a button more than once? I think every button only needs to be pressed once. I think.
That's a good point, actually. Probably, I think you're right.
But other games, like the amount of puzzle games where they've got switches and levers, the amount of like repetitiveness they put in.
That's fair.
You have to go down to get something and then go back up to get another thing. I don't think in Eco it definitely didn't feel like it. It never felt like I was going, oh, I've got to go back down and get the thing to put in the other thing. It was always one switch pull would do this, that, or the other.
Right.
So again, that was quite rare. You never get that.
Yeah, it's such a great game. Like people need to go and play it. It's
Everyone go play that game.
Yeah.
Ben's been talking about it for 10 years since uni days, and I've only just got around to playing it. So in 10 years,
we should get the rest of the population to play it.
Give it a go. But yeah, it's taken me a while.
This is why we need a remake, man. Like it's
Yeah.
annoying because there's this amazing game that could be discovered by people, and people aren't going to discover it now because it is so old. It is 20 years old at this point.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that, because this game just spoke to me when I was a kid. Like when I was.
Well, this is it. Harrison, who's 5, my son,
Right.
he was playing it with me, and he was going through the emotional side of things just by watching it.
Right.
And at 5, that's crazy. Like asking all those right questions about story and where to go, about how to progress. So he had the mission in his head already. He had I know that these people need to get somewhere, and I know that where they're not is not right because of what's going on around them.
Yeah.
So he had that already. So it's kind of like that. If people play that now that aren't into games, that could definitely get people into games.
Yeah, I mean, this is the game that I always tell people that don't play video games to sort of try out, because it's not.
Yeah.
Like it sort of strips everything away, and it's very basic in that respect. Like I've never, like if someone came up to me and said I've never played an action adventure game, which would I play? Obviously, I'm biased, but I would tell them to play Eco because it is such a stripped down version of everything. Like it's not crazy and complicated and bombastic. It's not trying to do too much. It's not trying to be too complicated. Like the story isn't crazy to follow. Like the it's just very. I don't know. It's just a very tight experience, and I can't recommend it enough to people.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
I would say that it's a great jumping in point, and it's a great game that showcases what's great about games, really.
Yeah.
It's just a shame that the textures are a bit dated now.
Yeah, there is that, unfortunately, but yeah, it is what it is, I guess.
What changes would you make, if any, if you could change it?
Camera, I think, is the main one.
But how would you change the camera?
This is the thing. Like you can point certain things out, but it's like, how would you solve it yourself? I'm not too sure. Like there's obviously other things like Yoda's like AI and stuff, how she moves. Like I wish she could do like a little bit more to contribute, you know, because it's sort of unfortunate that she, like, you are sort of dragging her around like she is a sack of rice sometimes, which isn't like the best thing in the world, obviously. Like in today's modern era anyway, like you probably wouldn't be able to get away with that without any backlash, which is understandable. Like, to be fair, like I'm not, like, criticism is obviously can't be too retroactive in that respect. Like you need to look at it in its context of its day, and it is very much about like saving the girl. Like she does have her own abilities that helps you to get out as well. She's not completely defenseless. It's just I wish she could do a little bit more. Maybe if she could, like when you called her when there was enemies, like she would run to you and stuff like this instead of just like standing there like, I don't know what to do.
I don't know.
She sort of freezes up, which, you know, might be realistic as well. She might be freezing up because she's freaking out, or like she's scared or whatever, which makes sense. But yeah, I guess just small things like that.
What her palette of things that she can actually do is, again, I was surprised about how much she could do.
Yeah.
Like not just open doors, making it sound like all she is a resistance to get to the next area, but she can climb up boxes, she can stand on switches.
Yeah.
She can climb up ladders. She can create like blocks that you can walk on at certain points in the
Right.
level.
Yeah, she's not completely defenseless, I guess. Like, she does help out. It's just
Yeah.
I wish there was just like something like another ability which she had other than opening doors, sort of thing. I wish you could like control her, because you see you actually like these problems which I'm talking about right now are actually solved a lot in The Last Guardian, because like the creature does a lot more and he helps you out a lot more. And if it's a he or a she anyway, Todiko, like, it's never actually explained if it's a he or a she. I just assume it's a he. It's probably bad on my part, but like the creature itself can actually help you out a hell of a lot more, and I think that comes from the criticism or the frustrations which players might have had with ICO for like the companion not being able to do as much. She's kind of defenseless in that respect. So
Yeah.
so I guess like a lot of the problems which I have, like any problems which I do have with ICO, are probably solved in The Last Guardian in a weird way. So it's kind of,
if ICO didn't exist, would The Last Guardian be your favorite game then? And is
probably
the reason why The Last Guardian isn't is because ICO exists and you have to put the first one first?
I don't know. That's a difficult thing because they're so connected in that respect. You know, like, would The Last Guardian exist without ICO? Probably not, because a lot of lessons which the designer probably tried to figure out and probably learn from ICO. So it's kind of like, could you interchange them? You can in a lot of respects, but yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Yeah, I'd probably still enjoy The Last Guardian, but yeah, maybe not half as much, I guess.
Maybe. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
So I'm glad I did it that way around now. I'm glad I just didn't go, because I nearly did just go straight in with
Last Guardian. Yeah.
Last Guardian, because I thought I'd just play the best one. But I'm glad I played that first, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good, it's a wise move, because ICO is so stripped down, like it is so minimalist, that the extra, like the layers that the Shadow of the Colossus and the Last Guardian get are just added features rather than like you're not removing anything. Like if you played The Last Guardian first and then you went to ICO, you're like, oh, why didn't she do anything like the creature did? Or why doesn't the camera act in the same way as like it did in The Last Guardian? Like, you'd probably get a bit frustrated by it, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I've never really thought about that, but that might be an issue. Which is, again, this is why we need a remake.
Why we
like,
need
it's
a
annoying.
remake.
Yeah, it's really it's unfortunate, but you know.
And they could because
do
it's
so much with that. Yeah.
Yeah. They could make that look. All they need to do is make it look great. Play with a few tiny little bits and pieces, and it's like,
yeah. Because Blue Point Games, what they did with the Shadow of the Colossus remake is it's unprecedented. Just like how well they did it. It's like that is the gold standard for what a remake is.
Of a remake,
and that's not just for me being an Eco like Ueda like Team Eco fan. Like that's widely considered. Like everyone that I've ever spoken to that's played the Shadow of the Colossus remake are just like, yeah, this is like the best remake anyway. Not the best game like that they've ever played, but just going from the source material to making it a contemporary piece of like games development. Like, just that journey is just it's kind of hard to argue against, because it's so well done. Like the remake is really well done, and it holds true to the original but updates it in just the right ways that it feels good. But yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that then.
Yeah. But yeah, we should probably wrap this thing up.
We should probably wrap up. How long have we been going for now?
An hour and 50 minutes. So we should.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, we'll put this in its own section anyway, and then you'll be able to skip through and skip ahead and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's all
like
good.
2 podcasts. It's like
all
2 for 1.
2 for 1. Yeah, you buy one, you get one free.
So yeah,
you buy one, get one free, even though you didn't pay for it.
You've not bought. Although you can, if you really want to, with is it coffee?
Yeah, you can buy us a coffee. It's just coffee.
Buy us a coffee. It'll be in the. Is it gonna be in the description on YouTube?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, and also on Anchor if you're finding it through Anchor as well.
Sure. Yeah, and if you do want to follow us on Anchor, then please do that, because we're on pretty much all the podcast services. That sort of spreads out and goes onto Spotify and iTunes and all them sort of good stuff. We're pretty much
the good ones.
We're all over the place, but yeah, you'll be able to find us on there. But the good thing about what we're doing now, we're actually showing quite a lot of new footage on YouTube. So like while we're talking about certain subjects, I'm going to try and keep videos playing in the background, so it sort of gives good context to what we're actually talking about a lot of the time, because I know sometimes it's annoying just looking at faces, like talking about stuff, which is great for podcasts, but
yeah,
you know, like if they're talking about a certain game or a certain subject, like it's probably good to see the sort of like the stuff on screen as well to sort of keep people engaged. So I'm going to try and do a lot more of that. But if you did like this, then please subscribe, like, and comment. Hit the bell icon to be notified for when we do put out a new episode. We're going to try and keep to this sort of live schedule. So if you do ever want to join us live and ask any questions, then you're very welcome to. But Chris, where can people find you, sir, other than on our normal places?
So I'm doing Twitter is at Acrylic Pixel, where I'm doing about updates on my indie game that I'm making, and I've got a YouTube channel, Acrylic Pixel, as well, where I do some videos from time to time.
Good.
What about you, Vin?
Yep, you can find me on Twitter. I am at Hillfort Games. I post a lot of my concept art and some of my indie development stuff on there, which I just started up again. Actually, I'm working on a new feature at the moment, so I'm probably going to be posting about that soon. So yeah, there'll be some of that. You can follow me there. I'm also on ArtStation if you are into the concept art thing a bit more, which is Vin Hill Art. You can find me on there. Give me a like, give me a follow, and I'll probably follow you back because I like seeing cool artwork. But yeah. That's pretty much for me. So until next time, ta-ta.
See you then.
Go play
Bye-bye.
ICO. Go play ICO. Everyone should play ICO, honestly. Anyway.